joy in exploring, and it's tough. I'm sure he'll bounce back, but yeah, he's gonna have to do it quickly, at least for this season.
No, absolutely. One last chance on Sunday, and that's where the loser of this will find themselves as well. The winner will also be joining the others in the playoffs. So, with that said, let's do some intros from Apprentice Esports in the bottom right-hand corner. My blue Protoss player, DisK.
And for the Shopify Rebellion in the top left-hand corner, not rallying her over properly, it is Scarlett. Choke?
Choke, or, you know, the fact it's like, what time is it in Korea right now? Like 7 a.m.? Maybe something like that.
We're already making excuses, weren't you? Oh my.
Yeah, for the first Overlord movement, sure, I will. I'll accept it.
Yeah. All right, well, Scarlett will get to drop her expansion on location here. Scarlett is a pretty awesome human being, known her for a very long time. As of recently, we've been playing a little bit of Dota here and there, and she's also been coaching me a little bit in CVP. So let's see if she can coach herself into a victory here.
Yeah, no, I mean, she is obviously, you know, with the way players are playing at the moment, I almost feel like Scarlett may be the favorite in the Americas. Which I've not felt like for... She's always been dangerous in the Americas, but I always felt like in the past as EVP was maybe a little bit shaky against like an Australian and Neeb. Like winnable, but not like guaranteed, and to go through both of them like she would often have to. You know, it doesn't always happen. But then I look at this season, I feel like Special's been a bit shaky. I feel like, you know, Australia's definitely... We've just seen, you know, what happened there. You know, she did lose to Kalazur. She is 2-1 in this event, but... I don't know, I feel like she's definitely got a pretty good chance of taking this season. Obviously has to make playoffs first, and we'll see if she can do that today. From DisK, we saw DisK obviously be a good contender in the Americas and in the playoffs, or North America in the playoffs and past regionals. He's one of these players who was kind of ready to maybe break into top 4 NA, right? Was definitely on that kind of verge of maybe having those runs. Was almost always making playoffs at least, and sometimes top 6. So we'll see if he can maybe continue his prowess in what is now a tougher region. If he could make playoffs, that already, what I would say, would be a pretty huge success for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thinking on that, I hadn't really put much thought into who is the favorite going into it. And yeah, I think that Scarlett very well may be it, if not Kellasur, which is very often... Yeah. It's very weird to say, right? Because, yeah, like if you put Kellasur, if he runs into Special, I feel like Special is still favored. But in the Latin American region, Kellasur never got to display his best matchup, which in my opinion has always been the TVZ. And with Scarlett being the other person that looks extremely dangerous, I feel like Kellasur has good odds if he gets the right bracket, whereas Scarlett may be the better rounded player. I think with the right draw, Kellasur could end up winning the whole region, which would be awesome.
Yeah, the playoff bracket is going to be so interesting to see, because that's obviously a massive tell as to, you know, what we can then expect. Like, does Kelazur have to go through a special on his route to the finals? Obviously, we'll be finding that out later on Sunday. But yeah, that's going to be a massive part, because it's all single elimination, if I'm not mistaken, as well this time. So no double elim, which obviously is really puts a lot of emphasis on how the bracket draws out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if Kelazur can avoid special, then he's probably favored against everyone else. On the flip side, Special probably looking to avoid Scarlett instead. So yeah, it will be very interesting indeed. Scarlett does lose her first creep tumor here, which is a nice pickup for this to start things off on this very short map. She is going to poke and confirm the third at the triangle as well. And the Oracle comes in. The Queen's not quite in position, but DisK actually not venturing forward as the pullback is quick enough.
Yep. Yeah, that's 1 kill only, so good defense from Scarlett. Sharp on this initial movement, and just making sure the Oracle can't do too much. Second Oracle joining up. It's been a very, well, an interesting first few minutes outside of this one Oracle, Cats, right? I mean, we maybe catch a couple drones now. That's nice. 2, 3 more drones. Oh, he dives further forward, which is more kills. Scarlett misses 1 shot on that Oracle. That might have made the difference of her getting the kill. Wow. Yeah,
and 7 workers is a fantastic start for this guy. Had already picked off the first creep tumor too, so this is everything that he wants. As far as a win condition said, this is the kind of advantage that I think resets my perceptions of the game back to 50-50, whereas before the game starts, I would have thought Scarlett is the heavy favorite.
Yes. No, it absolutely just gets in there and just damage. I really felt like the first bit of defense was good from Scarlett too, and yeah, just in the end, this part just a little bit too weak. Just able to make the call and say, yep, that's an opportunity for me, and he absolutely took it. So, job well done there, and is now back with the Oracles to the upper side. Queen's here immediately to try and meet them, push them back, and keep them away.
They will be able to do that for the time being. A Revelated drone actually very daringly takes that forward hatchery. There was an opportunity for this to notice it on the minimap. The perimeter setup from Scarlett as far as overlords in conjunction with the creep are concerned is absolutely beautiful. So she will be aware of everywhere that these oracles are headed towards. They are going into the main at the time being, but still one drone kind of derping behind the mineral line. Not intended from Scarlett. That is not the command that she gave the drone, but sometimes they just tend to do that, and that's an extra kill for DisK.
Yep, extra couple of kills. They're adding up, and he's got a worker lead still here at 62. So far, so very good. And Interblink and +1, but also a very fast second facility and Robo Bay. So just wants to go straight towards that splash damage super quickly as well, which is always cool to see.
Always cool to see, and it opens up DisK to try and capitalize in the early game, which makes me feel better about his chances. If he just continues to take this advantage that he's accrued in the early game to transition into the late game, you know, I still feel like Scarlett will recover, like when she gets to the max out stage, like and this damage doesn't matter as much. It allows for the Protoss to set up, etc. But then she becomes very confident back then. I think with the double Robo, very likely that we see this go into like 2 Colossus, 2 Disruptor or something like that and move out, or even just 4 Colossus and go for an all-in-ish timing. And that could be very dangerous for Scarlett, as DisK's early game has been incredibly clean and very fast to saturate his 3 base, though he does take that 4th.
Yep, getting that 4th base ready to go. He's been very macro-oriented, like we said, just moving into splash damage. Scarlett now getting into all of her tech, Bane Nest, Infestation Pit, Roach Speed, so she's also setting up for the future. If we're going to see a lot of Colossi quickly, getting into a hive and getting some Vipers out is going to be pretty important, as once again we are creep clearing. Has been very active clearing creep here. I'm not sure if we actually needed the second revelation because there's an observer right there, but the idea is good, right? The more creep we push back, the less control Scarlett has. We know Scarlett's creep spread is some of the very best in the world, and you just do lose games sometimes to a creep spread alone, so you just got to be very on top of that, and I like that DisK is making it a priority so far in this game.
Yeah, very much so from the beginning. Even gonna blink in here and gonna be able to take additional creep tumors. Reveals the position of its observer potentially, but Scarlett with not much to do about it for the time being. And this this front-facing base could be in a little bit of trouble if DisK pushes out, as now Scarlett transitions into her hive as well as a Spire. So again, looking towards that late game. If DisK doesn't do like substantial damage soon, Scarlett is an absolute beast come the late game, and all of this early game, again, it will have served for DisK to stabilize, to make sure that he can't die in the mid game, where Scarlett is also very dangerous, but the game will sort of reset to where I would think the advantage just goes back to Scarlett.
Oh yeah, absolutely. As the later it goes, the more I like Scarlett. Scarlett's late game is terrifying. There is obviously, you know, a late game where the Protoss is just ahead enough that the Zerg never quite has the right composition, but yeah, we'll see what goes down. We do have Stalkers pushing up this right side. Scarlett has been kind of tracked this entire way with the Revelations, and DisK feeling it, blinking forward, and he is pushing with all these Colossi. +2 finishing soon. Prism on the way. I mean, I like that DisK is getting aggressive. No Banelings ready already, Cats, and Scarlett on a mass morphin right now. Doesn't have a lot of units, and DisK is getting work done.
Yeah, and Scarlett and the Zerg Cabal that she has been rumored to lead also nerfed the more time for the Ravager, so that didn't bode well for her there to push this army back. Beautiful stasis trap is going to get a lot of those Zerglings and set up DisK to potentially try and kill them as soon as they are unfroze, and no creep spread here for Scarlett, so she has to be very careful. The Banelings do find decent connections here on the front lines, as a lot of the Colossus are actually exposed, somewhat surprisingly, from a DisK that could have juggled them. Does juggle the last one, but walks into a corrosive bile.
Yeah, I think what happened here, Cats, is that DisK had 1 unit as probes on the other side are going to go down to the counterattack. DisK had 1 unit already in the Prism, and that stopped the Colossus lifting up, and he really blundered the first 2 because of that. So that was costly, at least the first one. Second one getting viled. Now a few Banes coming in. Does Scarlett have enough? There's still the 2 Colossi. She's getting more Roaches. The supply definitely looks good for her, especially after taking down a whole bunch of probes on the other side. She just needs the reinforcements, and 22 more Roaches should be plenty, as DisK is still pushing forward, and I don't blame it because, you know, it's been looking good for him, but now it's too far. And yeah, where is the War Prism? It is. I actually have no idea. Right back there.
What is it doing back there? Yeah, I mean, you need that for the Colossus at this point. DisK instead using it for the reinforcements. But yeah, he is thinning out. So is Scarlett, however, and this base is actually going to be abandoned by her, resetting her back to 4 base and trying to just elongate the game. Scarlett took a very good engagement at many portions of the game, but now DisK with a strong force still of primarily Stalkers against Roaches, not what you want if you're Scarlett, but only 1 Colossus remains, and 2 of those Colossus have fallen kind of unceremoniously. If this could have retained those, his chances to win this would be insane. But without those, I mean, the Stalkers are going to be protecting just the 1 Colossus. I feel like Scarlett has the option to reinforce with Zerglings, but actually Larva would be a little bit of a constraint there, as she only has 1.
Yep, absolutely. Is Colossus needs to be careful of that bile. Do not lose yourself to that, as we do see the Roach Ravage having to back away again. DisK's army supply now looking great. Scarlett caught up in the natural. That's a horrible position. She's very choked up. She's diving for the Colossus, and DisK just kites back into the concave of Stalkers. It is looking good for DisK, Cats. The army supply is there now, and this was an endless fight, but it is going to go DisK's way, I believe.
Yeah, DisK has done it. Scarlett has to tap out, and wow, I mean, Upset City here in North America. DisK will take game number 1 off of a very strong and clean early game. Not the best fights there to take for him in between, but Scarlett unable to make it happen. I can't help but to believe that if she had the Larva for it, Zerglings would have done incredible. It just wasn't available.
I bet Master is sat there thinking, why didn't Cats and Wardy do this whole thing about these matches being very predictable and we're just hoping for good games before I played, so it could have cursed every match, you know? Because since we talked about that, Future 2-0, DisK up a map against Scarlett, it has absolutely turned into the night of the underdogs. And DisK is a map away from playoffs, and Scarlett could end up 2-2. Estrella is currently 2-2. I think it's unlikely that they meet, both 2-2. In the final match, but it is possible, right? So, yeah, I mean, that would be ridiculous.
Yeah, and Scarlett also letting Neo Humanity through as well might be a little bit dangerous, right? Of a map in the CVP matchup. Now going to Ancient Cistern. This is more or less Zerg Paradise, but DisK with the map lead looking very, very strong in that early game in particular. Scarlett dropping the ball a little bit, and I am worried.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate. Do you feel like DisK just got himself into a good position? It was dangerous, right? The fights that he took definitely weren't the prettiest. They definitely were a little bit scary, but he made it work out. He got there in the end, and yeah, off of a good start, just knew what to follow up. And he obviously was like very aware, like, hey, I don't want to play macro against Skull, or like the super late game against Skull, I should say. So he was absolutely all about hitting this kind of somewhat pre-hive timing and just go, go, go. And I love that, because we were just saying like how scary it's going to be the later this gets to Scarlett, and he just sort of picked up the pace right at that moment. So love that.
Yeah.
Dive into game 2. Top right, down a map from the Shopify Rebellion, our red Zerg player. This is Scarlett.
And for Apprentice Esports with the upset in map 1, it is DisK. Zerglings where they try. I mean, yeah, that would have been such a difference. I feel like whenever there's like Zergling Roach, the Zerglings kind of become a tank against those Stalkers that don't deal well with them, that need a lot of shots to kill them. So even just a few Zerglings trickling in would have been a lot easier for Scarlett to take those engagements past most of the Colossus being dead. But again, Larva being a constraint, therefore the Queen of Blades not being able to maybe drop a macro hatch or something like that. I mean, it would have been easy, I think, if she had dropped a macro hatch over the hive, for example. Maybe a little bit too hasty to go into that hive. And yeah, this capitalizing on everything that we wanted him to capitalize on. He had a very clean early game. That is a way to close things out, as that waterfall is crazy cool.
You know what it is? I feel like I must have like a different sound setting on my usual account, because I've never heard this before. And this overlord was just like flying out. I was like, what is that noise? It's like this waterfall is just absolutely pounding away.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a sewer as well, it feels like. A very clean water coming out of it.
It's extracting all the creepy gooiness and replenishing the springs of Ancient Cistern.
I love it. A lot of wildlife down there. But yeah, I mean, DisK, again, not blocking the expansion of Scarlett, just choosing to go for the later scout. Scarlett wouldn't mind either way, I think. She is prepared to take her third at a different location. Likes the 16 hatchery.
Yep. Absolutely. As we just have Pro B moving around in the main base, Cybercore, Nexus all coming out, and obviously just getting ourselves set for this next game. Waiting to see what sort of build DisK goes for. Really do expect him to probably just dive in towards a Stargate again. He starts Warp Gate. I would be shocked if he didn't cancel build Stargate, but maybe he's going to shock the cats because he's got the gas for Stargate if he wanted one by now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Adept is getting chrono boosted out. There's the Stargate that you were asking for, so very standard DisK, and his Oracle control was immaculate, so I don't mind it at all. It was great.
I'm down. Just obviously Warp Gate first is a little bit of a telltale sign of like not a Stargate, because you could go Stargate first, and yeah, this could have been a faster Stargate, but like I say, a bit of a mind game, so that's what was intriguing me. But we do have the Adept across the map. We'll see if it can do anything early. Unlikely, as we see already the Shade cancelling, and Scarlett on top of the first Adept. Not going to let this into a mineral line. Of course, very difficult to find damage when the hatchery is on the natural rather than the third location, so much easier defense than usual for Scarlett. No surprise that the first Adept don't find anything at all.
Yeah, seconds away to see if Scarlett has been bamboozled, as the Roach Warren should go down within the next 10 to 15 seconds if she thinks she is going up against a Warp Gate-based attack, such as a Glaive Adepts or something of the likes. DisK will drop a Twilight Council behind the Oracle, more indicative of Blink Stalker follow-up than anything else. And Scarlett has not dropped the Roach Warren just yet. I think so.
One Oracle into Blink?
I guess it's a single Oracle, huh?
Yeah.
Oh.
I would have just guessed Glaives off of one Oracle, but I'm down to plan if it's Blink. I'm interested.
Yeah, let's see what it is. I mean, it could very well be Glaives, I suppose. As there is a single Oracle indeed. The Roach Warren did go down at 350 or so. And it is Glaives. Right as per usual is Wardicho. And yeah, I mean, Scarlett did drop like, a 350 Roach Warren, not a particularly early one, but also not a late one, so just trying to be a little bit safe, but sort of has a read on the Stargate, at least to some degree, it feels like. So the Oracle not going to be able to accomplish too much this time around, though Scarlett does drop an additional 2 Spores and has 6 Queens, which is kind of the setup that you want against triple Oracle. The single Oracle might find a damage of 3 here, as 3 drones do end up going down.
Yeah, that's really nice, especially on the, lead up into this upcoming attack. Scarlett is just droning and droning. If she doesn't recognize soon that she needs to build some units, she could end up in a lot of trouble. So, needs to be careful. We've got 5 Adepts out. It is just, it's going up to 4 gateways, but there's not going to be a Prism or anything to reinforce across the map, so it's going to be very much so just warp in the first few Adepts and then just go with one big attack. As the Lings scout, you're going to see an Adept in the wall, a couple Oracles. None of this is really weird. She is building a few Roaches, though, in preparation.
Yeah, it's kind of cool for this that Scarlett spots the second Oracle, but if she's paying a lot of attention, she should see that the energy isn't there, and it would have built up energy if there was just a second Oracle that was defensive prior to going into the Glaives. So, yeah, Scarlett will be aware of what the potential options for DisK are here, and the Roaches, I mean, if they're well positioned, she should be plenty fine.
Yep, no, absolutely. As we see, the Adepts going to begin their shade forward. So making their way towards the natural, but there are so many Roaches, and this... Yes! The Shade was just far enough away that it wasn't super dangerous, so we'll be able to threaten the Shade here to get some space, and that should be fine. There's Oracles heading to the main, but there's also Queens in position. Scarlett's defense this time is great. Ooh, we commit on the ramp. I don't love it.
Yeah, I don't love it either, but I can see why he did it. The Lings were a little bit out of position, but this is not an insane number of Adepts whatsoever, and Scarlett did very well to position herself and her Roaches on the retreat as well, and splitting them in case DisK wanted to go into the natural base. DisK is still transitioning nicely. This wasn't super all-in or super committed. An additional 3 gateways, an Immortal and Blink on the follow-up, but yeah, Scarlett stabilizing for now.
I'm just gonna be setting up DisK into 4 more gates, by the way, so that's a lot of Blink Stalkers going to be ready very soon. Plus 1 attack coming up as well, Mortal producing, and well, DisK just into everything he needs for some follow-ups, but Scarlett's had such a comfortable early game. I feel like she's going to be feeling pretty happy with where she's at. Balin Nest coming up, extra hatches, the upgrades. There's just not the concerns that she had back in Game 1.
Yeah, not at all. Game 1 was just absolute tragedy in the early game here, as these Oracles are trying to make it so, but will only find a drone. and take a bunch of damage in the process. +1 melee and range, both researching at the same time for Scarlett. So planning to make a lot of Zerglings and Roaches and possibly Ravagers against the upcoming attack of DisK. And a very quick Infestation Pit as well, so Scarlett looking forward towards the late game again.
Yep, yeah, the Infestation Pit down, just, set up into some of the tech you need to really stay, viable in the later stages. No surprises at all, makes a lot of sense with everything else she's going for. I just don't feel like she necessarily needs to be, super committed off of, the lower tech units with no follow-up at all, so... yeah, fine for this, and we just get rid of another Adept on the right-hand side. With Blinken +1 finishing and Prism on the way, maybe we'll see DisK up the ante a bit. I mean, this army's kind of terrifying, cats. He is building a 4th base, he has got macro on the mind, but, it's immortal, a lot of sentries. I mean, sentries in this number usually mean some kind of very committed attack, so you can force field a whole bunch and everything. But he's doing all the things to macro behind it as well, so I feel like DisK is in a bit of a middle of nowhere in terms of his plan at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's not really AoE, which scales up a little bit nicer into the game. Instead, it's just a lot of these battle units, which he's not battling with.
Yep, no, absolutely. Oracle's taking a beating. This other one nearly died as well, so that was almost a goodbye to both the Oracles here, as DisK is still just kind of hanging back. I really thought with the Prism there might be at least an intention of moving out, but I don't know. Scarlett, as she maxes soon, may just get aggressive herself, and then we'll see if DisK's army is okay. I mean, it should be good defensively with force fields available and so on. And a couple disruptors now. It is still just the lack of splash that is maybe the most concerning. As if he moves forward here, we could get some of that sentry energy used already, and Scarlett might be able to pounce with some Banes on the bottom side as well. Going to force more force fields.
Wow.
Yeah, that's good for Scarlett.
Yeah, that was a very small pocket of Banelings forcing an additional 4 force fields. Now most of them are gonna be gone. Those 2 Banelings maybe could have connected onto a sentry. Instead, they choose to evacuate. But yeah, Scarlett has the right pieces for this army on defense or offense, right? She has a lot of Ravagers, so identifying that sentries are in play, that is the unit that you want and need to break those force fields. She continues on with the upgrades. DisK now transitioning to double disruptor production, which I would have liked to see a little bit earlier, but it's still potentially going to scale nicely for him. The problem is Scarlett was so quick to her tech that she can have the answer in Vipers if she chooses to.
Yep. Absolutely, as we see a few more Zealots warping in, the units continue to push through, a couple disruptor shots begin to fire. Gonna get a couple of Ravagers to start, obviously first sign of splash damage here from DisK, who's lost 11 probes, but, well, I mean, the Ravagers did, the Disruptors did okay on the Ravagers, but we did lose 1 Disruptor. These last few Immortals now doing great, and the tail end of this is obviously horrible for Scarlett. A lot of these units going down without doing any final damage.
Yeah, beautiful from this. Those Novas do more than just threaten the army. They threaten the army and they corral them onto the corner as well, right? Cutting off the kind of like the way out for Scarlett through the ramp because of where they were coming from means that she has to tuck herself back in and then after the fact take a horrible engagement. So DisK, very, very strong engagement. Now venturing forward onto the other side of the map with continued production of 2 Disruptors at a time. Scarlett should be aware. So maybe it is time for Vipers. But maybe she thinks that she can get to Broodlords in time.
The Spire is about halfway done. Now a couple of extra Disruptors still coming through from DisK. Maybe you can get to Broodlords, then brilliant. The answer here right now is Stalkers, which is okay in some scenarios, but depending on the exact composition, it can be very hard to get those Stalkers actually into play on top of Broodlords, so, or underneath Broodlords in this case. And actually see Scarlett just jumping forward there. I felt like that was a moment to maybe grab some Disruptors.
Absolutely.
But that's obviously a scary game you're playing, because a disruptor shot that doesn't get cancelled is still going to be a deadly one.
Yeah, but still, I feel like you could have pulled back the Roaches and still the Baneling could have taken a lot of those Disruptors. Because you had an easy surround where the Disruptors weren't getting covered by the army. So I think we both saw it, and Scarlett probably saw it a second too late and was already pulling back or something like that. But I am completely with you on that. +3 getting upgraded for Scarlett. No Link upgrades otherwise from the spawning pool, as now Zealots are going to hold position here and try to do more damage in the mineral line. Successfully so for the time being. At the same time, DisK is running a couple of Zealots into another base, but there is a spine there to defend, so no problem there for Scarlett, who still has a very nice heads up from her creep spread all over the place.
She lost a lot of queens there in the main base, so she only has 3 queens left on the map. Maybe that affects injects later down the line. The Prism obviously just still chilling in the back as well, now safe because the queens were originally move commanding or attacking onto the Prism, lost the distance and then weren't attacking anymore, and that allowed the Zealots to just catch all the queens. So yeah, that was kind of funky, and we get ourselves Scarlett, who's still maxed out, but DisK improving his army ever so slightly. That Storm now on the way up is definitely going to be an improvement too, and let's see what he can do against this current multi-prong from Scarlett as she attacks on the left-hand side to begin with. We kind of need a second part of the wall right here. That super battery ain't going to do it. The warping a little slow. Oracle at least tracking the right side, so DisK knows he has to respond and respect over on the right at the same time. And in the end, this hasn't done too much from Scarlett. She's going to morph in some Banes before attempting to go once more.
Yeah, I love how Scarlett is posturing, waiting for the units to show up in answer at the left-hand side. What was that?
Just a disrupt on like the back half of a group of Banelings.
Oh, wow, dang. That is painful. Oh my, that is a lot actually. I mean, these two Archons will get taken down, but very, very good storms from DisK to start the engagement. This Warpin's a little bit questionable, perhaps, as Scarlett will breach into the natural expansion as well. Will she find the connections with the Banelings? Only 4 probes go down. I mean, the Cyber Core is under a little bit of threat if Scarlett can do that whilst distracting DisK. Now, a couple of these disruptors are trapped and not even firing. The Banelings are trying to connect onto a clump of Stalkers and will successfully do that. And Banelings obviously not great pound for pound against Stalkers, but when they're clumped up, not too bad. Scarlett still with a hefty supply, not supply lead, but rather worker lead, so can afford to remake a lot of this army, and if she can buy herself enough space, and again, that's a problem. And yeah, I mean, it's the queens that she lost that you were mentioning earlier as well.
Yep, without the queens, she doesn't have injects. Without the inject, she can't actually rebuild her army. 2.5k, 1.5k,
oh my,
just sitting there doing nothing at all. And she still only has 3 queens, and they're dropping injects now, but very limited positions. So DisK going across the map is not going to face the reinforcements he really should be. And yeah, I mean, this was a chaotic little affair, but I really feel like DisK handled himself well during this. Some good disruptor shots throughout. This one should have really turned back on the Banes. We do in the end.
Oh, nice.
That disruptor shot in the other direction as well. Roaches are still being pushed back. Some Banelings all over the place. One Immortal left over too. DisK's numbers are still reasonable. If he could spend his money, he could also be in a great spot. Scarlett is still struggling to spend her own. Finally gets a round of injects out, and that looks to have made a big difference.
Yeah, but she's still remaxing on kind of like the same type of army composition that she has been. I mean, Lynx and Banelings can be excellent against this, and you can always morph some Ravagers if you have enough gas as well, but she has been holding on for a transition. She needs to hold an attack so that then she can be free to make those Corruptors and utilize those investments into, say, the +2 upgrades for air units that we haven't seen any of. So this is the engagement that Scarlett wants to take right now. Be careful with that Disruptor. No, it's going to be 4 Roaches, but at the cost of a lot of Disruptors, the second one does not connect, and this is absolutely the engagement that Scarlett was looking for. I expect after this set of links, we'll see some Corruptors out on the field for a further transition.
Yeah, it's a terrifying fight. I mean, honestly, the disruptor shots were pretty heckin' good. It was just not enough, right? Because there was just so much else going on. There was drones going down at the same time, by the way. DisK really, again, needs to spend his own money, get rebuilt up. I think the biggest problem for him here truly was just no reinforcements into the fight. Like, if he had a Prism across the map, he even has already 4 disruptors back at home. Like, look at all this stuff that kind of just popped out of nowhere, right? And I really feel like that is the issue. I understand we want to build up Storm Energy and so on, but then back away. Don't still be on the map when your opponent has had a long time to reinforce, and you have obviously not reinforced in a very long time yourself, because I felt like it gave Scarlett the opportunity to take a fight like that. We have not seen Scarlett feeling safe enough to tech up Cats, and with 140 Lings, she will morph in some Banes, but the reinvestment into Storms here from DisK should set himself up very well against that new setup from Scarlett, which is super Ling heavy.
Yeah, Scarlett really trying to elongate this portion of the game. She does have a lot of links that will net her a lot of map control. DisK is kind of trapped on 4 bases, and finally the first Corruptor is starting to be produced as Scarlett gets +3 on the air. But I mean, she's still looking for kind of like a mid-game oriented fight, but there is so much AoE from DisK. A couple of good Novas could spell disaster for Scarlett still. And yeah, I'm completely with you. I feel like DisK maybe thought I already have a Warp Prism type thing, so I shouldn't make another one type thing, you know, where it's like, you know, and then this Warp Prism has been trapped here by the 3 Spore Crawlers the entire time, so rendered completely useless. And now that he loses it, I bet you after he loses it, he's gonna be like, oh, I don't have a Warp Prism, I'll make a Warp Prism.
Yeah.
You know?
David knows it's been set there, basically not even a Warp Prism for a while. The Stalkers are buying time for the recall. Did we have a Storm on this High Templar? I can't click it in time, we do not. We do see Scarlett backing away there in the end. DisK lost 14 more probes. His army is still great, and Scarlett does not currently have a bank either, so if DisK can take one really good fight and keep moving across the map, Scarlett may struggle. It's really going to come down to Storms. They have the potential to be so freaking deadly here, We can see he's obviously very aware of these banelings, is trying to hunt them down, but that might open the doorway for Scarlett to just go left side because DisK is sending everything down the other direction. There's one storm that's split away from decently. Feelings run back through it. I'm just going to see DisK now going back to the left-hand side. A few more stalkers warping in as we have to defend the natural. Oh,
yeah, I mean, this air upgrades. Oh, yeah. One of them will get picked off, but not anymore as there's no banelings there from Scarlett on the flank. And Scarlett continues to try to do damage onto this 4-base DisK. Where, oh, huge. That is massive. I mean, that was like, what, 9 storms going down in those high Templars. So that is absolutely huge. And now DisK, I mean, yeah, I don't know if you want to move out. You're at 145 supply. There is plenty of creep. And Scarlett has more or less stayed in the mid game. So she will be very ready to absorb this. I think that she got the fight that she was looking for. I am still a little bit surprised by the lack of a transition here when she has invested so much into that Spire and the air upgrades. I mean, it's so much actual money that has gone into it for one single Corruptor so far. But Scarlett, I feel like feels pressure through and through to kind of just continue to defend, but then reaches a point where she's like, well, you're not attacking me, I guess I'll attack you. And then it's like, oh, I lost enough units that maybe I should remake them, and just doesn't transition.
Man, DisK's army would be terrifying with like even just 4 storms right now, like 2 high Templars of storms on this side of the map. I'd feel terrified for Scarlett. As it stands, I feel like she's going to be okay if a fight breaks out because it's difficult for the Disruptors to hit every single direction. Scarlett's finally building up a bank as well, so rebuilding quickly should be on the cards. She's got Lava banked up too. This is a comfortable position, like she's not really been in for a while. And DisK is obviously just drained. He's been on 4 bases for an eternity at this point. He's constantly having to pull back to defend his natural and main base so his production isn't lost, and this constantly led Scarlett get into better aggressive positions. And I think we got to the point a little while ago where DisK just had to say, right, I'm committed, I'm just going to go, I'm going to send it whatever happens. But he didn't do that, right? He's pulled back a couple too many times, and now this fight's going to happen all over the place. DisK has an army supply lead. Those storms are really good. Okay, I didn't realize there was some temple. He loses one with storms left over. The Disruptor shot turns back onto some units too. I mean, army supply is good for DisK. This is where you go. This is where Scarlett needed to have a bank build up, and she does. And that's why she's rebuilding, and that's where she may have some hope still. As DisK is all over with Zealots, by the way, on top of drones. Oh my goodness, cats, what a game.
What an absolute banger of a game. I mean, DisK has done everything to try and make it happen here. He has a big army, but a lot of banelings. They're gonna clump up and kill a few stalkers. The storm is good. The ends up being a great disruptor shot to start things off. The banelings do find the Zealots a little bit frantically. DisK fires 2 disruptor shots onto the same area that do not end up connecting. And Scarlett with the reinforcements, I think she might just have barely just enough. The one Corruptor, the most upgraded, most expensive Corruptor that I have ever seen, goes to try to help out a little bit, but can't even see the observers anymore.
Just no reinforcements again on this side of the map here from DisK. He never actually rebuilt the Prism, and now his only splash is, well, 3 Disruptors, which just ain't really gonna do it, I don't think. I mean, he had some amazing Disruptor shots in that fight. Again, Scarlett just had a little bit too long to build up the bank, and that's why she's able to be active right now with a whole new army. And yeah, this time it looks like it might be too much. I mean, Disruptors are still terrifying, and they are connecting time after time. DisK is absolutely all in. Has not got economy back at home. He's trying to build up some energy on a high temple. He's morphing Archons back at home, cats. They need to get here like right now. Scarlett is building up though, and her army supply is taking a good turn.
Yeah, I'm actually doing some math on the notepad right now because I want to calculate the actual cost value of that Corruptor, and I will have it for you briefly. It is actually absurd.
I await the information. There's a couple of Zealots head to the bottom right, and they might be able to chip their ways through some workers. This High Templar is in the middle of nowhere. The problem is right now, Disruptors on their own get surrounded by Lings, and that ain't pretty. Disruptor shots just not really landing. This one does. It's good. But there's just not the rest of the army that DisK needs here. Scarlett just has that bit too much, has the edge, coming down this ramp, chasing the splash units, and knowing that once she takes those out, everything else is an easy follow-up, and she is going to have too much. Scarlett takes it, and we are tied 1-1.
$1,750 is the cost of that one Corruptor.
With all of its upgrades just for itself?
Accounting for the drone that built the Spire, and all 3 upgrades that was invested plus its actual cost, $1,750. Isn't that crazy to like invest that much into tech and then not use it?
Hey, it killed the Warp Prism, cats.
It did kill the Warp Prism very fast. Maybe one less shot than it would have otherwise.
The most expensive warp was in denial. No wonder DisK didn't make a second one. He wanted to make sure that one corruptor only had one job.
Absolutely bananas. And with the game coming as close as it did, that kind of stuff matters, right?
Yes.
And it is a pitfall that I have seen Scarlett get into, even in the early days of like Heart of the Swarm, where there was like a lot of Broodlord Infested, and even at the start of Legacy of the Void, where a lot of these games seem to go to the end game, Scarlett would be the type of player that you look at her production tab and she's getting everything. And then she doesn't use a few of those upgrades, and then that can cost you in a game that ends up being closer than this one. So, so yeah, I mean, an interesting approach. She does end up taking it, but a little bit scary for my taste.
No, I'm 100% with you. Just very, very scary. A lot of, I mean, if she didn't catch all those High Temple and all of those storms, and DisK just goes across the map. Like, obviously, she created that opportunity. She was attacking the left side, counter-attacking. DisK lost track of the units. He lost track of his temple, and he got punished for it. So it was a good play by Scarlett. But if DisK just makes that one alteration where he does notice where the temple are, you know, routes them around back to his base instead of just up through the army of Scarlett, and then the counter-attack happens with, like, 10 more storms, Scarlett is dead. Like, that's how close this game came down to. Yes, it was one great play, but it was also just one click away from DisK of just changing everything, too. So... yeah, very close game, very tight, and you're right, in games that are as close as that, wasted resource and stuff like that just don't fit in, and that's why oftentimes people are like, well, why didn't he build one of these? Well, because you can't survive to afford those things. And in this case, she kind of, you know, could at the time afford it, but it got to a point where she probably should have stopped upgrading it, right? So, yeah. Definitely a bit
either
misplaced.
that, or, like, there were points where she had a strong enough army on defense, and instead of just continuing to go when you have your opponent trapped on 4 bases, you could just transition to those Broodlords, right? Instead, she was kind of playing a mix of, like, herself and Elaser, and Elaser would never, you know, invest into that much tech. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, in the top left, a red Zerg from the Shopify Rebellion, Scarlett, and she does get a hatchery on the natural again.
Very nice. And in the bottom right-hand side, it is for Apprentice Esports. This could be, or actually is, the final game of today. DisK.
You said DisK could be, and I thought it was DisK already, so I was like, zoom! Oh. And I was like, oh no, he's still talking. I was like, I'll just pretend I'm just zooming around anyway. I wasn't done zooming. Yeah, don't mind me.
This could be. I see. Nice.
Yeah, final game of the day, unless we get a draw. So,
true.
Don't doubt
that
the
has
draws.
happened.
It has happened this week.
It wouldn't happen, this week. And that's, my new technique on the ladder right now. Whenever I feel like I'm losing a game, you know, it costs you nothing to ask the question, and it sometimes works. Draw.
Has it worked yet?
No, not at all.
The problem is if you ask on the ladder, you all have to just stop your units mining and just sit and wait. Like
yeah, you would. You would have to wait for the.
You can't just send like an official draw offer. You have to wait for the game to time you out. Someone accidentally makes a creep team. It's like, oh no, sorry, another 5 minutes.
Sorry, I ruined it. Another 5 minutes. I love it. All right, Scarlett is gonna poke in here with the Overlord. Oh, we talked about this. I told her that I like doing this, where you send the Overlord a little bit towards your opponent. I'm not sure if that's what she was doing, or it's just her rally, right? But I like sending the Overlord a little bit in, see if you can force out a Stalker, and then go into the Piddler.
Yep.
Costs you nothing. We brought it up last time as well to you. You liked it.
I liked it. That was with a couple of weeks ago, right? That wasn't yesterday, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a couple of weeks ago.
No, not yesterday.
I was going to say, I was like, yeah, I remember this. Bait the Stalker and then get the Overlord away. Mastermind.
Yeah, it wasn't Gamers 8, I think, maybe.
Yeah. It was Gamers 8.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is actually more than a couple of weeks ago. Just,
yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Time flies.
Weeks pass quickly, turns out.
They really do.
Too much StarCraft going on.
A lot of StarCraft going on. It has not slowed down. And it's good to see that the GSL has also picked up some support as of recently, right? So it's good. Things are going well.
Everywhere, man.
Indeed.
It's good to see the real race getting represented in GSL too. So that's nice. Feels like all things are right again, guys.
Yeah, the new 4 horsemen. I mean, a couple of those are recycled horsemen, but the new 4 Terran horsemen making it to the... Oh, maybe that's a spoiler for some people. I'm not sure.
Making it to some point of the GSL. Check them out. They qualify.
To some point. Could be 4 people or more in it.
Look, it's StarCraft that happened over a day ago. I think we're good. Hatcher goes down third base. We do have the Oracle making its way around the left-hand side as well. And there's a second Oracle coming up. So obviously, last game did have the Glaives on the follow-up to the 1 Oracle initially. This time we're going to get a second Oracle pretty quick. And yeah, probably not going to see that Glaives. See something a bit more in towards the +1 and Blink or so most likely, if I had to guess. As Oracle comes back around the left.
Yeah, single Spore and single Queen, so there was a chance there for DisK to maybe pick up another drone, but he knows he has another Oracle coming as a follow-up, so preserving the HP is also very valuable, as the 2 Oracles in conjunction can leverage each other's HP to do a little bit more damage. And Scarlett is going for a relatively fast Evo Chamber, probably to get a +1. Equally, or actually faster Forge on the side of DisK. So yeah, I think we're going to have kind of like the most standard CVP that we've been seeing for the last year or so in the meta, where we have just a Ling Roach going up against Oracles, followed by most likely Blink Stalkers.
Yep, we've seen this one before, as our +1 starts, and Twilight and Robo are both on the way in, and we just watch for the Oracles, see what excitement they bring us in these early stages. Melee upgrade quickly from Scarlett alongside the Lair. It's going to be our setup for this final game.
Yeah. It's good stuff. It's a comfortable way to deal with the Stalkers, but that's what the Oracles are there for, right? And that is why it's important to preserve their lives as well, because otherwise your Stalkers lose out on so much power because the Links hard counter them, but the Oracles hard counter the Links. So as long as you are careful with them and keep them tucked in, they will gain a lot of value as the game progresses. 2 more drones go down from an Adept. And a decent early game for DisK again, but maybe not quite as good as the first game, but still finding openings here and there.
Yep, absolutely. Just finding a couple openings, getting a kill or so, Adept sliding in. Bane Nest going down here from Scarlett as well, so much faster Bane Nest than what we've seen previously, so really hoping to play that kind of lean Bane early on. And again, use those Lings, especially against the Stalkers, you know, are coming up, and DisK is again into that very fast second Robo facility and Robo base, so he almost just says, yeah, I'm getting +1 on Blink, but I'm not going to have too many Stalkers, or at least not too many aggressive Stalkers, because he's so quick to invest in the tech behind this as well. It's just obviously hard to afford units and all that tech at the same time.
Absolutely true. Robotics Bay on the way. Hydra then from Scarlett. Hydras are very interesting here because they are kind of like the hard counter to the gateway units, but they get hard countered by the follow-up in the Robo and the Robo Bay. So Scarlett is going to have to look for something else as far as like transitions are concerned, maybe going into an infestation pit to look for Vipers, or even maybe just lurkers to work with less and threaten counterattacks, kind of like Raynor was doing yesterday against Max Packs.
Yep. Absolutely. As our few Lings still down on the south, by the way, is just going to come through and nibble their way through these rocks in the center. Just going to open this map a little and, well, Disruptors to start us into Colossi after, as we get extended thermal land started at least, so Scarlett showing us an idea of where this game is indeed going to go. Hydras are coming out, and we do have the Oracles going to zap down a Queen over here as well, so nice little catch with these Oracles. Did a great job with that.
Yeah, and Scarlett talking about her in this matchup in particular, she feels like the Hydras can be pretty all-in-y as a unit composition. And this has me kind of terrified for her chances because she's going to be running into one of the best anti-all-in units, which is the Disruptor. The Disruptor struggles on offense, on creep, because you can always kite it, you can always run away from it. But if you're running into it, right, you're running against the force and the speed. So multiplying the speed effectively of a Nova coming towards you, right? And then if you're disengaging, it's not what you want to do because you're on offense. So if Scarlett dies on her sword of this is a very aggressive unit composition that you have to do damage with, it could get dangerous. Luckily for her, Immortals on the way, kind of useless units.
Yeah, Immortals
in this context.
Yeah, tanky, don't really do any damage to Ling Hydra, so intriguing, especially when we've had, I mean, we cancelled Extended Thermal Lance, right? It feels like Colossi would be really good against this at the moment, and we're just not going there. Instead, we're going to get a Fleet Beacon, another Stargate, And DisK is sort of saying, oh yeah, I can really tech up. I feel like he's actually opening the door to Scarlett hitting a massive attack with these units. And I mean, she's max, she's ready to morph in a ton of banelings, and I actually think DisK is really inviting trouble here.
Absolutely. He's gonna spot these and start 2 disruptors instantly. But yeah, what a misread, right? Like, because you've seen Hydras, you haven't seen a single Roach. Really no reason to cancel your Thermal Lance. That Colossus with Thermal Lance would have been the ideal unit to have against this sort of composition, maybe in conjunction with some Force Fields. Otherwise, more Disruptor Novas would have been great. These Stasis Traps could help out a lot. If Scarlett runs into those, it could be very, very difficult to break on through. After Disruptor first is going to whiff, as the Lynx will give the rest of the army of Scarlett a heads up, but her creep is not here yet. Carriers on the way. If this can get a sensible amount of carriers out, they are a hard counter to Hydras as well. And Scarlett doesn't really have a transition on the way, but she has a very strong force here trying to threaten this base. And the Link will connect actually into a bunch of probes. 7 already going down.
Yep, that +2 melee, one-shot probes goes a massive direction to helping out. Now Scarlett's trying to come up this ramp as well. Some banelings going to start getting through, splitting against the Disruptors pretty well, continues to split well, and that's a lot of probes and a lot of trouble at this point. She might just blow up the Disruptors. Can these Disruptors hit anything? Oh my god.
Yeah, they were trying to split the Disruptors as well, which is very sensible because one of those shots was about to land, so Scarlett looking for the connections to avoid that from happening, and DisK trying to micro against that. But the better ends of the trade have been taken by Scarlett here for the time being. 24 extra workers going down. No. Very likely to find additional one. No, the gas are trapped. 41. And Scarlett finding all of the damage that she was looking for. Also, the 4th here. Carriers are the last hurdle that she will have to overcome. But with the economy being shattered for DisK, Scarlett is going to have whatever she wants to work with.
Yeah, at this point, even Mass Hydra will probably get the job done. She will tech up behind this just to be safe, get that infestation pit started, but that was just, well, everything it needed to be, just dodging those disruptors. And, well, we said it wasn't the right army to really deal with this at all, right? I think, you know, A, Colossi, and B, some sentries. And obviously it was affordable if we weren't teching up into carriers so greedily, if we did get Colossi in the first place. You know, that combination would have done so much there, because using, you know, relying on disruptors to try and hit banelings is very difficult, and as we saw, because Banes are very good at splitting into different little sections. And here we have now this fight from Scarlett as she pushes up. The carriers have no interceptors left. That is GG, and she dismantled.